on the one hand, you're saying that the institutions are the rules of the game or are the commonly understood norms that structure behavior. And then on the other hand, you're saying that the behavior then changes the institutions as people try to push the conventions a little bit, to create a new framing of issues, to create a new sense of reality and acceptability for new practices. The first thing we think of with institutions is frequently politics. And in the case of this institute, it's really what are the processes that are going to define the world-class city. But what institutions in a sense do is create the scope for the shared definitions. They also mediate conflict between shared definitions. And it can be something as simple as a court adjudicating between two neighbors who don't agree on the height of the boundary wall. Management, this is within the world-class city, looking at the management structure of the city bureaucracy, of the relationship between the state and the city leadership, the elected leadership. These are basically typical organization questions, but they should not be left out. And again, here, looking at that within the public sector, management is fairly constrained because you can't hire and fire at will. So the last is informing the world-class city.
We had a lot of national leaders who were also municipal leaders. Instances, we've got a certain Jawaharlal Nehru, handled Allahabad. Motilal Nehru handled Allahabad. We had somebody who was the CEO of the Calcutta Municipal Corporation, a person by the name of Subhash Chandra Bose, a mayor by the name of C.R. Das. We had a Hisar municipality. Do you know who was one of the leaders from the Hisar municipality? Had huge problems with the British supervisor? Lala Lajpat Rai. We had three lists: union list, state list, concurrent list. Union list had lots of subjects which could be governed by the union, defense, external affairs, banking. State list had things which the states were given or the provinces were given in charge of, which itself was an interesting devolution of power at that time, to think about it, because it also came from a very centralized system. So barely recognizing that the states were there was itself a step forward, an incremental step forward, so to speak. And we had something called a concurrent list because we realized that a country as big as India wouldn't just be a state in the center, they had to coordinate. There were certain subjects which would be between the center and the state. Some of them were shared, so to speak. So local government went to the state list, which means states or state governments had control over local government. What happened subsequently is important because when we talk about the exile of the city, the importance of the rural and this whole dichotomy of the city and of the urban and the rural building up in the collective imagination. When we're talking about a world-class city, we're talking about perceptions at the end of the day. So there's this perception, validly so, justifiably so, of the city being slightly exiled in the imagination of the national leaders. So we had the states coming in. And here we have an interesting situation. A lot of these municipal bodies which already existed get superseded by various states. It happens to Madras municipality. 2011, cut. Fast forward. How many municipal leaders do you know who are also national leaders? The question is not about knowing who's there and who's not there. The question is about asking why is it that we don't have it at the moment.
Which state has the largest urban population? Anybody knows? In absolute terms, Maharashtra. In percentage terms, Tamil Nadu. Okay? So Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, amongst the union territories, of course, Chandigarh, Delhi and Pondicherry, etc. are highest in percentage terms. But in terms of states, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Maharashtra. Okay? So this is important to realize because now Tamil Nadu has already 720 urban local bodies as compared with another state like Chhattisgarh, which is like 138, or Bihar, which is much lower. So now the thing to draw from what Amlan was saying was, when you bring in a national constitutional amendment and then you devolve it to states, historically it has been the state's prerogative to decide what is an urban area, notwithstanding the census definition, to say, I declare this by order an urban area deserving of certain funds and privileges from the state. And there's always a constant battle between the state and the center. So if you're talking about an urban local body in Tamil Nadu, it looks and feels and functions in a very different way from another state. So that's important to sort of register. So there's no point in a generalization, but the legal frame remains the same for all of them. So you're talking about 4,000 odd urban local bodies, of which you have 150 municipal corporations and 1,500, 600, right? This is very important to realize, and when you see this figure, immediately ask the question, okay, where's the breakup? Which is the state am I in? And what does the municipal legislation of that particular state say or look like? Taking from Amlan, whether they have gone through the steps of, in a detailed manner, devolving the powers, functions, and finances to the local bodies. And that also, states like Maharashtra and Gujarat will say, if you are a big city, I will give you more money, more powers, more IAS officers, more capacity. Then if you are very, very small, then I will send some junior level state cadre officer.